In this interview, I talked to Dave Young, founder of Drone Launch Academy. We go to Dave's origin story. We hear about how he got started in the FBI as a CPA, investigating financial crimes and that sort of thing, which actually sounds pretty interesting, but he had an itch that he really wanted to start his own thing. And he tried a couple things. We actually go into a few of his side hustles that didn't quite work out. And then we go even further back in his origin story. And at some point, Dave wanted to be a pilot until he realized that it wasn't for him, which is an amusing story. The super cool thing is Dave used that expertise as a pilot to drive his business in Drone Launch Academy. And it's super cool how he identified a problem, a complex sort of process, and then simplified it for other people. And that was sort of the root of Drone Launch Academy. We also get into one of my favorite topics, which is mastermind groups. Dave's been a part of a couple paid mastermind groups, and we kind of look at the pros and cons of a paid group versus a non-paid group, and very interesting. It's been a catalyst for him in growing his business and growing as an entrepreneur in general. And finally, as an unrelated thing, we talk about Dave's favorite orders at Chick-Fil-A, a restaurant that I really like, but I can't get Chick-fil-A around here in Bozeman, Montana. But there's plenty of them down in the South where Dave's located. This is part of an interview series that I'm doing with side hustlers. So I talk to people like Nick Loper, Elise Dharma, and Shane Myers. So do check out the others in this series. I think if you like this interview with Dave, you'll like some of the others as well. By the way, I'm Doug Cunnington, founder of Niche Site Project, and I normally talk about Amazon affiliate marketing, project management, and productivity. So have a look around to the channel, and if you like what you see, please subscribe. All right, without further ado, let's talk to Dave. Hey, what's up? Doug Cunnington here from Niche Site Project, and I'm sitting with Dave. How are you doing today?
Hey, good. Thanks, Doug, for having me.
Thanks for joining us. And a lot of people in my audience and that are watching this don't know who you are. So can you give us a little bit of an intro?
Sure. So, like you said, Dave Young, I run a site and company called Drone Launch Academy. So it's dronelaunchacademy.com. The name sounds, it is a site around drone training, specifically commercial drone training for people who are looking to get into using drones for any sort of commercial application, from real estate shoots to 3D mapping and modeling, stuff like that. So courses to help people get started in that space. And I've been doing that full time now for only 4 months, really. Before that, I did it on the side as a side hustle with my full-time job. I used to work at the FBI for about 8 years, and I did that. So the last 2 years of that, I did it as a side hustle and kind of like fell into it and kind of grew it as a side hustle. But I had always had side hustles going on while I was there. But most of them were usually more around consulting, things like that. I have an accounting background, so I was doing more of that towards the beginning.
Gotcha. So you weren't out like in the field doing like Jack Reacher kind of stuff?
No. No. Well, not at first. I worked at the FBI ever since I graduated from college. I went to Florida State, got an accounting degree. I originally worked there and I was managing like their internal finances. So me and another guy were responsible for like all of their payroll budget, which is about $5 billion. Basically, they're just like, make sure we don't run out of money to pay people. And so we just built financial models and forecasts and, and worked with people that way, which was fun, but it's like not super sexy sounding, It's like, oh, I manage payroll for the FBI, or like, but towards the later half, I kind of wanted to switch it up a little bit and started doing more of the investigative side. So I did forensic accounting. So I worked on Ponzi schemes and money laundering with drug dealers and, cyber crime, stuff like that. I wasn't the guy carrying the gun arresting people, but I was working with them. I would handle kind of more of the financial aspects of the case and kind of feed that to them so they could further their case against people. So it was fun. But, it's a government job and there's a ceiling. I just kind of had that entrepreneurial bug. So after a while, once it was feasible with the business growth, my wife was really supportive. I got 3 little kids too, so kind of wanted to make sure it was solid. But after a while, it was a point to where it was stable enough and felt good about it, and I'd always wanted to do it, so I went for it.
Awesome. That's very cool. And a lot of times I just like to cut to like some really exciting stuff. Can you share some of your course sales, some of the recent numbers, maybe since you've gone full time, just so people can have an idea of like how well you're doing?
Yeah, sure. So let's see. If you look at 2017, so last year, full year, my net profit, or we'll say gross sales, was about 250,000, and my net profit was about 90 on that. And then since going full time, we're on track to hit between 500 and 600 this year in gross, and then net. That's a good question. The net, it's been fluctuating, but the net usually fluctuates depending on how much I'm spending and reinvesting in things, but it's usually around 30%-ish. So you could say 150 to 180 is probably the projected net for 2018. So right now, monthly, we're averaging in sales between $50,000 and $60,000 a month, and we have more courses planned to launch later in the year, so hopefully that number will increase. And that's up from about an average of 20 to 30,000 when I was kind of on this doing it part-time on the side.
Gotcha. That's super impressive. Congratulations. Those are like real numbers, for real. So
yeah. And just to caveat it too, I think if I had tried to launch a course in a different niche or topic matter, it probably would not have had the same success. They say like a rising tide lifts all boats, right? So like, I feel like the drone industry right now is just kind of it's very popular and it's on the way up. So there's a lot of interest. And so that's supporting a lot of, I think, why, those numbers are pretty solid. If I decided to get into something that had been out for if I'd said like, oh, hey, I'm going to sell courses on how to use Excel better. That's been out for a while. That's pretty saturated. You know what I mean? So I probably wouldn't have had that same level of, the sales. So.
Right. Very cool. Well, and the other part is, you started this on the side. So it's not like 4 months ago, you quit your job and you launched this, multi-$100,000 venture, right? So can you take me back to the beginning? When did you first launch it and how did it come about? I take it you're a drone enthusiast?
Yeah, it didn't really come about because I was a drone enthusiast. So to kind of the full story, I'll take you back a little further. When I graduated from high school, I really had my whole life, I wanted to be a commercial pilot. And so I got a full scholarship, for the tuition part, full scholarship to go to a school called Florida Institute of Technology in Florida. I got accepted there and I got accepted into Embry-Riddle. And I got scholarships from both of them. But Embry-Riddle didn't offer quite as much money. So I went with Florida Tech, got my pilot's license, but in the process realized that I was kind of terrified of flying small planes because it's just I get claustrophobic. I don't like heights. It's just it was a bad idea. After a while and a couple, semi crazy to me things happening. One time I was telling people a story earlier today. One time I was turning and there was fuel spilling out of the wing and I was like, should that be happening? And the guy's like, let's head back, And then one time the door popped open mid-flight, I was taking off. It just a lot of stuff to rattle you. And those planes were old. So I think I was 18 at the time. So I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. So, but I got my pilot's license. So I thought, whatever, I'll hang that up on a shelf. I'm never going to use that. Fast forward, I did accounting, finance, FBI, blah, blah, blah. Come to 2015 or so. And I really don't remember how I first stumbled upon it, but the rules used to be that if you wanted to fly drones commercially, you had to have a full-fledged pilot's license, a full, be able to fly manned aircraft like I was. And so I thought, well, that's awesome because that's a pretty good barrier to entry. I've already got a pilot's license, so maybe I'll check this out. Maybe this could be my new side hustle, right? And this was on the heels of another failed side hustle, which we can talk about a little bit later, but it had to do with knee scooters and crutches. And so that one had kind of ended and then in flames. And I was like, well, let me check out this drone thing. I was always, trying to come up with new ideas. So as I was looking into it, part of the process, even if you were a pilot, you had to have this really lengthy paperwork done with the FAA, and there was no template, there was no online form. It was submit us a document on XYZ and explaining these things, and people had no idea how to navigate it. So I just spent a ton of time doing research and figuring it out. I came up with a template document that worked. I thought, well, this process really stinks. I bet people would want help with this. So I just set up a Squarespace website with a form on it. It was a little mail merge deal, and I just started advertising to people. It was called a 333 exemption. Was the name of the form. So I started advertising hey, we'll do your 333 exemptions for you. We'll file it with the FAA. We'll keep you posted on the status, all that stuff. And I had never used Google AdWords before, but I just got on there. I did a little research. I just started posting a couple Google ads and people started buying it. And I remember my first time I'd ever made an online sale. I had done consulting stuff before, but first time I ever made a passive income sale. My phone dinged and I was like, oh my gosh, I was freaking out, texting my friend and stuff. So I kind of started getting into it that way, and it just was so much demand for it. Within 3 months, I was making more profit. Then I was making more money doing that than I was making at the FBI, even just within a couple months. So I was like, wow, there's a lot of demand here for this. But then, plot twist, the FAA changed the rules and said, hey, we're not going to require this anymore. we're going to move to like a license, an actual license where you can get a drone license. You just got to take this exam and you can get a drone license. So you don't need this paperwork anymore. So people got wind of that and just, nobody wanted it anymore because they were going to wait for it to change. So I knew, okay, I had to pivot. It only lasted about 3 months. This is early 2016, but I saw there's so much demand here. I really want to kind of dig deeper on this and kind of stay in this market industry area. So I went to a conference in DC. I paid $700, just kind of scrounged up some money, or I had some money from, I kind of held on to most of the money I had made from that former venture. Paid $700, which I thought was like, a ton of money to go to a conference. Now I'm realizing like almost every conference costs at least that much. And I met two guys. I met a guy named Andrew and a guy named Don. One of them was like a former Air Force colonel, and he's a meteorologist. He owned a weather company. And other guy, Andrew, was a partner at his law firm, and he was also a pilot. And he was heading up their firm's area of their drone practice, drone law. So I met them, just chatted with them at the conference, got to know them. They were nice guys. Well, after the conference, I said, hey, would you guys be interested in partnering with me? I'm thinking about making a prep course for this new exam that's come out. What do you think? It'll be good exposure for, since you guys are trying to get into the space too. They were super nice. They're like, yeah, that sounds great. So I wrote up all the curriculum, which took months, which I severely underestimated how much work that was going to be. So I'm, working at the FBI during the day, dinner with the kids and my wife, and then working on it from like 8 to 2 a.m., just like trying to get it done at Starbucks. And then, I used my money to buy some camera equipment and stuff like that. And I just kind of figured it out. And we recorded this course, paid someone to edit it. It was rocky at first, but it's kind of has built to where it is now. But that's how I've kind of edged into drones. So it was a little bit more of a backwards way. Originally, I was going to fly the drone, and then I realized there was a bigger opportunity just helping other people kind of get into the space as well.
Gotcha. That's I mean, it's almost always like circular route to get to wherever you're going. Like you couldn't have planned it exactly that way.
Yeah, for sure. And I thought I thought my pilot's license was like a total waste, but now I use it a lot. Like I ended up getting an instructor certificate too. I studied for the FAA exam to be a certified advanced ground instructor just because I wanted some more kind of credibility if I'm going to be offering this course. And so I still utilized all that stuff from a decade earlier, which is kind of a funny roundabout thing.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So, and just to peel it back and get out of the specifics. So you found a complex process that wasn't defined well. You knew it was hard for other people, and then you made it easier and for them to, get that waiver, it sounds like, right? Or whatever.
Yep. Yeah,
okay.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
Then things shifted, but you still knew that there would be a need for that type of information moving forward. And you partnered with some more senior folks that had more experience and some time, it sounded like. Yeah.
Yeah. And they were more than willing to help out, which was awesome. And they just had tons of credibility because they had these long careers of decorated attorney and meteorologist. He used to be head of meteorology for the entire Air Force at the Pentagon. And he's like, yeah, I'll work with you. I'm like, what? So
well, and at least you had the credentials. I mean, you worked at the FBI. You're you have some chops,
Sure, yeah. I mean, but I felt like a little guy, So
sure. You mentioned that writing the curriculum was harder than you thought. Was there anything that was easier than you thought it was going to be?
Not really. No. I mean,
everything takes longer than you think. Right?
I would say the relationships were easier than I thought it was going to be. Like, meeting people and having the courage and, I didn't want to just be an asker, right? Like, oh, I'm just going to take. But I tried to frame it in a way like, hey, this could be beneficial for both of us. I want to make sure that everybody's winning from this, exchange and stuff. But they were very willing to help. And, and I've realized since then and over the years, becoming friends with people, reaching out, developing good relationships, they're just normal people. And, and it's so much easier to do business with people that you're friends with, or, you don't have to be friends before, but that, you can meet them and build some type of relationship before going straight for some type of like business ask, So that has been, I guess, easier than I thought, or people are willing to work with you and partner, if you're, have good relationships with them. So I would say it's probably the only thing I can think of. Everything else, I tend to be overly optimistic just as my personality. So, my wife always makes fun of me like, oh yeah, I'm just going to knock out these 10 videos and do this and this. She's like, you're not going to do any of that. You're probably going to do one, because it's too much to get done. So
I know exactly what you're talking about. So let's go back a little further. You mentioned you've had like a lot of other like side hustles and ideas, and you've had that sort of entrepreneurial spirit. So do you have any fun stories to share from back in the day?
Sure. Probably the worst. I've had two business ideas that I started on that kind of just fluttered out. First one, me and my buddy who it was kind of like he was a audio engineer guy, and I had done like a little bit of consulting for some startups. I worked at the FBI, like I said, doing like accounting and finance stuff. And since then, I did some work on the side for different startup companies. And so I thought, oh, hey, let's start this podcast / company giving business owners advice on how to be their own like CFO and manage their finances and stuff like that. And we called it CFO Made Simple, CFOMadeSimple.com, tried all this stuff. We started a podcast. I think we got 1, maybe 2 podcast episodes up. I don't think the website ever went live. My friend got another job. I moved and had a kid and just kind of like fizzled out. And then in the grand scheme of things, I was thinking, I didn't really have a ton of credibility there. I mean, I probably could have made it work by interviewing the right people and stuff, but that kind of fizzled out. So it wasn't like a huge failure, but it was I probably wasted $1,000 and, a couple dozen hours of my time on that. And then fast forward a couple of years, I was in like a league, like a little learn to play hockey league, right? Because I'd always wanted to play ice hockey. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to do this. I'm going to go sign up and learn how to play ice hockey. So I was playing ice hockey, ended up skating myself into the wall and breaking my leg, just like falling weird on it. So I broke the outside of my leg kind of towards my ankle, had surgery on it and all this stuff. It was not fun, but I was on crutches, and walking around on crutches was just killing me. And so I ended up buying one of those knee scooters. You know what have you ever seen those where people that have like the boot on their leg, they're, cruising around on a knee scooter? And I thought, man, this looks ridiculous. I'm like, but whatever, I'll just own it, and go for it. People at work were making fun of me like, oh, what is that thing? But it's kind of nice. I was cruising around the building, But I thought, oh my gosh, this is so amazing. Everybody needs a knee scooter, And so I was like, I'm going to buy some of these things. I'm going to have a warehouse. I'm going to rent them and ship them to people. I had all these like grand ideas, like I'm going to have warehouses full of knee scooters. And my wife is of course like, oh gosh, please no. And I built out a website, crutchesareterrible.com. It was a horrible URL, but it's all I had. I don't know if it's, I don't think it's still, no, it's gone good. But I was going to rent these new scooters out. I spent time building out the website and all this stuff and putting the product up there and pricing it. But I didn't do the reasonable thing to do first, which is like calculate, hey, is this even a good idea? Like, what are the shipping costs? Just run some basic numbers on if this is even profitable. And then I did that later on, and I realized, oh, these numbers don't work out very well. Like, this is a losing business from the start with the way the prices are. So again, wasted some money, wasted a bunch of time trying to do that. But if I never would have like started and tried those things, like I never would have kind of come to and the drone thing could have been a similar thing where it could have been a total flop. But you just kind of keep like poking different stuff to see like, hey, is there anything in there? Nope. Is there anything over here? No. And yeah, shortly after the whole crutches are terrible thing, I just canned that idea. A couple months later, the drone thing kicked off, and that's what I've been doing ever since. So.
Wow, that's pretty cool. It's kind of funny that you didn't run the numbers first.
I know, right? I know. I'm like an accountant. I'm a CPA, for crying out loud, and I'm just like totally didn't even bother to do that. So it's a big goof on my part.
That's pretty funny. So can you share like who you look up to or who inspires you, just either online or a podcast or whoever that maybe keeps you moving? Yeah.
One thing that really put the bug in me with this stuff is I always listen to Pat Flynn, Smart Passive Income. I'm not sure if your listeners are familiar with that. And I always said, I was like, one day I'm going to be on Pat Flynn's podcast. You know what I mean? Like I'm going to get something that's going to be good. I'm going to be on Pat Flynn's podcast. So fast forward, I was doing my business. I had joined another mentoring, like an online coaching mentoring group called Owners Up, ownersup.com. That was really helpful for me. There's a woman named Tanya that runs, I actually got off the phone with her earlier today. She's really awesome, really helpful experience for me. And then Pat Flynn actually said he was going to open up a coaching program called the SPI Accelerator. And so it was for people you had to be making at least $10,000 a month or more in revenue. It was only going to be like kind of a smaller thing. And I was like, oh my gosh, I have to do this. I was getting close to the point where I was about to go full time. So this was, earlier in the year. So I spent a couple hours one night, finished my application. I applied, prayed hard, and I got an email saying, hey, you got in. So now I'm actually in Pat Flynn's like private coaching mastermind, and we meet, one-on-one, we meet about once a month. And then as a group, we meet twice a month, 3 times a month. Flying out there next month to go. We're all meeting up in San Diego for like a little 3-day retreat. So it's just kind of crazy how that, happens over years where like, 5 years earlier, I was like, oh, wow, this is so incredible what this guy's done. And now I know, so it's cool. It's just see like you should keep working hard. But that was some big inspiration, Pat Flynn, and just some of the people kind of in that space, John Lee Dumas is another one that, they're kind of in this online world and they're very transparent and, just bringing lots of value. that's been so critical for me in learning a lot of this stuff. Another guy I follow is, Ramit Sethi, although his website titles, when I first heard it, I was like, oh, this is so spammy. It's like, I will teach you to be rich.com. Yeah. I was like, what is that? But then I started following it. It's got good content. And I bought his courses, and he and I have emailed a little bit back and forth. I wouldn't say that I know him, but he's responded to a couple of my emails. And another guy, Derek Halpern, is, I know he's friends with Ramit, and I follow him, and he's always got some solid advice too. So it's kind of those guys, Pat Flynn, Ramit, Derek Halpern, those kind of guys in the space.
Those are exactly like the people that I follow too. So SPI, that's how I learned about anything online. And then I kind of followed, like you said, I have a couple of Ramit's courses and a couple of Derek's too. So
yeah, it's great.
It's a good circle of people. Very cool.
For real, yeah. Yeah, they know what they're doing. So, and I noticed like some of these courses are more expensive. People are like, oh, I'm never going to pay for that course, or it's so expensive. But what I found is, if you don't just pay for crap, but if you find something that's good quality that is going to teach you and get you there a lot faster, it's worth paying the money for that stuff. So I'm not shy about spending money, even pretty good money, if I know, hey, I just think if I spend this money, is my business going to grow by more than that? So I spent $1,700 on one of Ramit's courses, but it was a course on launching digital products. And so it's like, if I have one good launch, I'll make up the $1,700. And so we launched, and I think we did like 15 grand or something, and I botched most of it. And so it's like, but I still made my money back on the course just by one launch. So,
right. Yep. And it's all about the ROI, and that's the perfect way to look at it.
Yeah.
So you did mention the knee scooter thing, but do you have any other mistakes that you could share, maybe from one of the launches? I know launches can really be hard to work with, a lot of moving pieces, a lot of failure points. Anything to share?
We haven't done a ton of launches because right now my course is evergreen. And now actually the future courses, we're kind of taking more of an evergreen approach. We're launching it. So the first time we launched it, it was almost more of like a beta, even though we didn't say it was a beta. We opened it for 3 days and closed it, and we wanted to get some feedback. The feedback we got was, we needed to tweak the structure of the course a little bit. We kind of got like lukewarm feedback on it, it kind of stinks at first. You're like, oh, we failed. But, hey, you got to like figure it out and redo it and come back. And also the guy I was working with on that course. So part of my strategy is partnering with other experts in the drone industry and them kind of creating the curriculum and us producing and distributing the content. And there's a profit share there. So yeah, so I wouldn't say that was a big failure, but that was something, we're like learning to work through, and the guy who created it is a good friend of mine, Alex. He's great at what he does, but like us working together, figuring out how to launch, the perfect course. So we came out with another course later on drone photography, and that was much more well received because we had already gotten the feedback from the first course. I did a few more things differently on my end. So I read through, oh my goodness, why am I? Jeff Walker's product launch formula stuff, tried out some of those techniques, and that seemed to work a lot better. And we had some better results with that. People enjoyed the course a lot more, kind of better numbers. But I think the failures, if you will, not so much around launching, but when I first started, I didn't really know what I was doing when I guess you would say launched. You know what? Actually, let me rewind. I do have a good failure story for you. When I first started my business, period, and I had worked for months and months and months on putting this course together. Like I said, I was at Starbucks till 2 o'clock in the morning. I was taking days off of work to go film at this guy's house to get it all together. I probably spent, $20,000 on editing and animations and equipment and software and all this stuff, and just like I'm in my basement with a drop cloth behind me, and I bought some lights. I'm like filming these videos in my basement. I mean, you can't tell it's my basement when you're watching it, but basement of my townhouse in Virginia. So I'm like, I have my whole like heart and soul invested in this, right? And one of my competitors had launched a similar course. I know him, he's a good guy, and he's got good products, so I'm not surprised. But he had been building up a list for the previous 2 years, and he had a blog, so he had 50,000 people on his list. He launched, and he was selling his course for $300, and he, within maybe a month or a few months, had over 1,000 people that had taken his course. And I'm like, that's like, that's $3 million. Oh my gosh, I'm going to be a millionaire. I just immediately imparted his success on me, right? Like, oh, this is going to be great. So I had these huge, my head just like, oh, it got huge. And I thought, oh, I'm going to launch to a list and I'm going to be a millionaire, which was a horrible way to think. And so I was like, all right, I got to get a list. So I went out and I bought the brand new, whatever the newest drone was like a Phantom 4 by DJI. I bought it. I did a drone giveaway. I did the whole, if you share this, you get an extra entry thing. So it kind of the viral share, even though I've learned that those are not your best customers a lot of times. They just want free stuff. So I got an email list cobbled together of about 4,000 people from that drone giveaway. And I thought, I'm going to launch this and it's going to explode, right? So when I was about to launch, I knew nothing about internet marketing, email list, how to work an email list, how to do any of that, build a relationship. I thought, well, if I email them, people are going to start unsubscribing. So I want to hit them with the sale right away. You know what I mean? And the guy I was working with is like, I don't know, I would maybe shoot out a couple emails to like let them get to know you. I'm like, no, forget that. You just got to go right for the jugular. And so the first email, I'm like, basically, hey, I'm David. We put this course together, buy this course. And the full price was like $300, just matching the other guy. But a limited time discount, we'll give it to you for $100. Maybe I listed for $250, I don't remember. Well, I launched and I like sat back and I was like, all right, here we go, And one sale trickled in. And then maybe a couple hours later, another sale trickled in. And I launched another email out, and literally that was it. I made 2 sales at $99. So I invested, I spent $1,400 on a drone and all this time and money. And my revenue so far was $200 to show for it. And oh my gosh, I was like really depressed. I was really bummed out. And I recorded videos from that time too, because I was like, I'm just going to document how terrible this is. So I've watched a couple of those since then to remind myself. And it was like, well, that didn't go like I planned. So back to the drawing board, and yeah, no, it was tough. That was a tough couple of weeks. I was just pretty down about that. So
Man,
had to figure out how to balance.
That is rough. And I know you've gone through Ramit's launch course. I haven't gone through that one, but you made so many cardinal mistakes there. He'd smack you in the back of the head.
Oh, I know, right? I know. It was terrible. I'm looking back now, the things, and I'm not some super pro now, but just the things I know and I've learned, I'm just like, oh, I was just such an idiot. I just didn't know what I was doing, But hey, that's how you learn, right?
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's important to point out, you're doing really well now, but look at all the different ventures and ups and downs that you had. It's always a roller coaster. I think a lot of people miss that. They just see the highlight reel from people. So
right. No. Yeah. It was 8 years of different side hustle ideas, maybe 6. Yeah. 6 years of side hustle ideas before one landed, and I remember even at one point I probably made $30,000 off of that first the Squarespace thing. And then I remember I watched a video back the other day. I was watching some of the stuff from before, and I was like, well, I just spent the last $500 in my account to hire somebody to help me with this. Let's hope this goes well. So I was literally down to nothing. I still had my full-time job, so I wasn't in a total panic. I still had money coming in. But as far as my savings, I had just drained it all, and it was and then it had flopped, and I was just like, I don't know what to do. At that point, I thought maybe this is another knee scooter thing, and it's just, and after you've invested months of work, it's just such a horrible feeling.
Yeah, man. So that brings me to motivation. So it sounds like you were doing so much on the side for years. You had, again, the ups and downs. So how did you stay motivated during that sort of failed launch with the giveaway for the drone and other times? What keeps you going?
This is a good question. I would say, first off, I'm not always motivated. Sometimes I have to trick myself into doing stuff. I just had a really strong desire to be independent and work for myself, even if that was just doing consulting stuff in accounting. I don't obviously like that as much because you have clients, and that's doesn't provide quite as much freedom as something like the way I have it set up now, where it's passive, as in it's not time for money, even though I work a lot every day. Motivation back then, when it was really bad, after that bad launch was, okay, listen, yeah, this sucks now, but I still think there's a lot of demand. I believed in the concept, right? I knew there was a lot of demand. My competitor, I saw him make $3 million, right? That guy make $3 million. He's about the same age as me. I'm not trying to down on him. He's a good guy, but I'm saying if he can do it, I can do it. You know what I mean? Other people are being successful with this. Dart Drones is another one of my competitors. They went on Shark Tank and got funding from Mark Cuban. So there were other signs. Yeah, they got $300,000 from Mark Cuban. So there were other signs in the industry that I was like, no, I'm in the right place. I am just doing something wrong, So what do I need to fix? What do I need to do to get this to a point, to where it needs to be? The knee scooter thing, I'm there were no other indications oh, this guy's a billionaire with a knee scooter business. You know what I mean? No. It's yeah, this idea just, I don't think I could have, if I really, really worked really, really hard at it, I could have maybe made it profitable or gotten really creative. but like I probably would have put in, effort is here, maybe profit would be here. Whereas with the drone stuff, it's like effort here, profit here is potential. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
So I believed in the concept just because I knew other people were having success. So I knew it was possible. I just was like, if it's working for other people, and it's not working for you, then the problem is you. So I had to figure out what to fix, So
Gotcha. Very cool. And like, I think it's impressive that you didn't get too stuck like with the sunk cost fallacy with the knee scooter. At least per your story, it sounds like you were like, you know what, this is not going to work and it's time to move on. I know a lot of people will just keep trying to push that boulder uphill. So do you think you're pretty good with the sunk cost and just moving on?
Yeah. I mean, so I don't know if you've ever read the Dip by Seth Godin, but it talks about that a lot, like when to quit, when to push, and that's kind of a hard thing to know. Like you don't just want to be a quitter, right? Because if you just always quit anything when it gets hard, you'll never succeed. But like knowing when it's worth pushing through like the bad stuff, So yeah, no, I mean, I had worked on it, but at that point I felt confident enough that it was not an idea that was really going to do what I wanted it to do. So the more research I did, the more it was pointing to that. My mom was a nurse. She worked in home health, and she was kind of telling me like a little bit more about the medical device industry. And she would say things like, there's just like two or three companies, they control everything, and like you're never going to compete with them. But when I hear that, I'm like, watch me. You know what I mean? But then I was like, I don't think I want to do that. Like, I don't know, maybe if I had committed my life to it, I could have, but I was like, is that really what I want to do? Is that really what I want to be? Like, probably not. So yeah, I kind of folded on that one.
Very good. So you mentioned you're part right now of the SPI Accelerator and maybe a previous paid mastermind. Have you been part of like just a mastermind where you just meet every week and it's not a paid situation, or have you only done the paid groups?
No, because honestly, I didn't know even where I was at the time. I didn't know other entrepreneurs to even link up with. Now that I know, like I'm more familiar with the community, and I realize I could have just probably jumped on some Facebook groups and maybe got some people together. So I haven't done that. I know there's definitely some value in that. One of the things that I was looking for is I kind of felt in this, I don't want to say alone, but like you have questions and problems, and all of my friends, I love my friends, but they're not in that same boat, right? They got full-time jobs, they're doing other stuff. And I go to them, I'm like, okay, this guy wants to partner with this. Do I need to hire an attorney? Or like, is this a good deal? Or is this? And they're like, I don't know. Sure. It sounds good. What I mean? Like, that's not good, but that's not helpful advice, And my wife, she's super supportive, but she's not like a business person. She was a nurse. She's like, I don't know, trust your gut. I'm like, that doesn't help either. So I was really looking for something. So I think I just started Googling like online business coach, which was a bad search term because then it was business coaches online. I wanted someone who was going to coach for online business, But yeah, so I kind of found that Owners Up, and I think it was almost good that it was paid because it forced me to kind of invest and forced me to like take it seriously. And they provided a lot of accountability, which was nice and what I needed. So just the advice and accountability, even though I was working full time, I would meet up on the group calls on my lunch break, and they would say, all right, David, last time you said you're going to do X, Y, Z. Like, where are you with those things? And so it was good. Otherwise, it's easy if there's no one holding you accountable, keeping you on track. You say, oh yeah, I'm going to do those projects, but life's always busy. You maybe push that out, especially when you're working full time. So I think having me pay for it, and I was like, I'm not going to pay for this and not get my money's worth out of it. So I think that helped a lot.
For sure. And I think that's hugely valuable too. I have been part of several groups that are not paid. It's just, folks getting together that usually I pull together. And just like you said, like the commitment level may be really strong at first. And then, sometimes people are not doing what they're saying, and it sort of like lowers the value of the overall group.
Sure.
So,
yeah. Yeah, and I'm not saying that stuff's not helpful. Like definitely, and especially now that I have more friends kind of in this space, just working with different people. Yeah, there's definitely people outside of that like paid group circle that I reach out to for different things, be it different, people I've hired in the past that now are kind of like friends, and I'll just hit them up for advice on certain things. But yeah, so it's definitely still value in that.
The other part is like the network that you're introduced to. So I'm sure on the SPI Accelerator, you're probably sitting with some pretty like impressive folks that are in the similar situation. So it's like they have skin in the game too, and they paid to be there as well. So they're going to be more serious about everything. So
yeah. And that's one thing that's been huge about the SPI group is the just level of people in there is just, it's at another level, right? Everybody in there's a minimum qualification to get in. I was kind of on the more bottom end of it. So I feel like I'm a little bit more of a smaller fish. And so I learned a ton. I mean, I learned a lot from Pat, right? But I learned a ton from these other people. That each person seems to kind of have their own superpower, I called it, right? Like one person's like awesome at SEO, one person has a PR firm, one person is like awesome at webinars. So like whatever problem I have, or if I come up to a certain thing, one girl runs a Facebook ads agency. So it's almost like any problem you can have, you're just like, oh, who's the expert in my group with this? And I can ask them, and they will record a 15-minute video for me and help me and show me. So that's been really, really valuable.
Super cool. Super cool. So this is the donate business idea section. So do you have any like side hustle ideas that you don't have time to pursue yourself because you're busy and you have a family and all that?
Yeah, I mean, shoot, I always have ideas. I always think, all right, whenever I get finished building Drone Launch, I'm going to do this or do this. One thing I think that is valuable that I see is on the internet, all these websites that connect jobs with people who want to work, right? So just that kind of concept. So there's websites like that, like Upwork. I mean, I use Upwork, Guru, used to be Odesk, Freelancer. There's a ton of them like that are just really broad. Wise Ant for tutoring. I have a friend that used that. All these things. But there are some that are becoming more like really industry focused, industry specific. So in the drone world, you have Dronebase, droners.io. They connect drone jobs, people who like need drone work done. So whether that's, hey, come map my big soybean crop to see where the plants need to be sprayed or whatever, to I need pictures of my house. They connect people with the pilots to do that work. So I think even when you can drill down into certain industries and find different people to connect, there's still a lot of value to unlock there. And being a former forensic accountant, and I also did a little bit of forensic accounting work on the side privately for a little bit. Attorneys and people in litigation are always looking for expert witnesses and forensic accountants, medical examiners, whoever. And right now, I looked. There's not a lot of specific people kind of linking them up. Mm-hmm. And so one idea I had was to kind of have a platform where people in litigation, attorneys can search for and find expert witnesses or forensic accountants or whoever, and kind of hook people up that way. So that was an idea I had. That's kind of specific industry, but you can really apply that to like anything,
Yeah, and that's a great one because it's like two professional industries. There's big money involved.
Sure.
There's client billing involved. That's a really awesome idea.
Yeah. So maybe I'll do that one day, but not for now. So if anybody wants to take a crack at it, go for it.
Cool. So vision for the future. Where do you see the company going? More products?
Yeah. So I think right now we want to keep everything online based. A lot of my competitors are starting to offer in-person drone training, and that makes sense because you fly drones physically, so people want to learn how to fly them. But it's just you unlock a whole nother box of problems when you get into a lot of locations and people, and that's going to be more difficult to manage. So for right now, keeping everything online, but our plan is to partner with more industry experts and develop more courses on different specific drone applications. So once someone gets their drone license, now they're licensed to do work commercially. A lot of people are like, okay, what's next? Like, how do I make money with this drone? How do I acquire these other skills that people are looking for? Because a lot of when you're doing with the drones aren't very hard to fly now, right? They're very automated. They can fly themselves a lot of times. The value that you bring is what you can do with the data that the drone collects. So a lot of people that are having success with drones are people that come from those specific industries that then, pick up a drone and then they can learn to apply it. So like engineers, or there was a guy I was talking to that took one of our courses, and he is like an oil and gas like inspector. So he inspects like the smokestacks or I don't know the terminology for it, but the pipelines, and he knows a lot of the science and the ins and out of inspecting those, and he's got certifications. So when he picks up a drone, he can now like use his other skills to do that. So teaching people some of those skills like thermography, or how to apply it for a roof inspection to work with a home inspector, or any one of those skills. So right now we have photography specifically around real estate and some other things, and then we have a basic kind of drone videography course, the fundamentals of editing and getting good drone shots and what settings to use, things like that. So those are more beginner courses, but we want to develop more advanced options and some other business courses, how to market your drone business and how to do those types of things to get people to the next level of what they're trying to do. So that's kind of our broad goal, is to expand that, and then also expand our audience at the same time.
Gotcha. Very cool. And how many people are working with you at the company?
So I use just all independent contractors, but I have 2 people that work probably 10 to 20 hours a week, 15, 20 hours a week, constantly on kind of customer support and curriculum development. And then I have one guy, he's a course partner, so he has a profit sharing agreement with me for the courses that are sold for him. I have a guy who runs all my paid advertising. So he doesn't work for me, but I use his agency to do that, and we talk weekly probably. So as far as independent contractors, probably 5 regular. I got another guy who helps me with finances and kind of just keeps up with he interacts with my bookkeeper, and he kind of acts as like a mini CFO for me to keep on track of all the numbers to make sure that I'm not spending all of our money away. So,
Gotcha.
So I'm like, oh, new drone, oh this, so gotta keep an eye on me.
Very cool. Now, this is off topic, but I'm from Atlanta, the home of Chick-Fil-A, and I follow you on Instagram, so I know you're a Chick-Fil-A man, right? So what's your go-to order?
Oh, gosh. You're killing me because right now I'm trying not to eat Chick-fil-A because I just had my 30th birthday and I got on the scale afterwards and I was like, oh, no, it's a new record. I got to stop. So, but my go-to order, are we talking for breakfast or for lunch?
And that is the right question because you can't answer it. So yeah. For what do you got for breakfast? And let's imagine it's before you turn 30, so
sure,
you can eat freely.
Yeah, sure. 18-year-old Dave's going in getting some Chick-fil-A. It's definitely that spicy chicken biscuit, which they don't offer at most Chick-fil-A's now, unfortunately. Which I complained to as many Chick-fil-A employees as I could possibly do. In Lakeland, though, they do still offer it. So God has blessed me there with that. So the spicy chicken biscuit with a large sweet tea was my go-to, which has like 600 calories. And if you eat it every day, it's not good for you. I think it's 550, 600, something like that. So, but yeah, that's my go-to breakfast. And then lunch is similar, It's either the spicy chicken sandwich with some barbecue sauce, another sweet tea, or some of those nuggets if you want to switch it up. But yeah, I'm glad you're a Chick-fil-A fan.
It's so good. And I'm up in Bozeman, Montana, so the closest one is like in southern Wyoming or maybe in Idaho, but they didn't have the spicy chicken biscuit, which we're like, what? What are you talking about?
What's wrong with you?
Yeah. So I love it. And then they got the milkshakes. And the last time I was down in Denver, I think I had one of those like blended lemonade thing. I mean, you can't eat there every day. It's definitely, I'm glad it's hundreds of miles for me to get to one.
Yeah, that would help me out from a diet perspective. But I've been doing pretty good about avoiding it. But yeah, no, I'm sure if you follow me on Instagram, you would have seen me basically like living at Chick-fil-A,
It's a good place to be. So, all right, Dave, thanks for joining us. Where should people find you?
Yeah, probably the most active is on Instagram. My Instagram handle is kind of funny / weird. It's at the real David Young for real, FORREAL. Every combination of my name was taken, so I just had to keep adding on. I would have just kept saying for real. But yeah, the real David Young for real. Instagram's probably the best spot.
Okay, cool. And we'll link that up, and we'll link up the Drone Launch Academy so people could check it out and see what you got going on. So thanks a lot. Great. Really appreciate it, and we'll talk soon.
All right, appreciate it. Thanks.
All right, thanks a lot, Dave. I appreciate your time, and I know everyone here at Niche Site Project got a lot out of our conversation. So everyone go check out Dave on Instagram. We'll place a link, and you can check out the Drone Launch Academy too to see what he has going on there. All right, thanks a lot, and don't forget to subscribe if you're not already.